Hi guys, my name is Shane Cashin, and you are watching Tennis Ninja TV. All right, aloha tennis fans. Once again, welcome to Tennis Ninja TV. I am your host Shane Cashin, and I'm about to bring you our first interview that we will be doing officially now on this channel. And my hope is that I can be interviewing and bring to you guys various tennis personalities around the state and around the island that make this sport what it is. As you know, or if you've not have even been to Hawaii before and know the tennis community, it's a very special community where everybody's very close and people know who's coaching where and who's playing at what tournament. And um, it's a cool hana to have down here. And, today I have a guest that actually was one of my good friends from our days in junior tennis, and we both aspired to eventually become coaches, and we're now coaching kids just like us. So I'd like to introduce you guys to my good friend and fellow Team Kailua coach, Kyle Shimabukuro. Kyle, thanks for coming on today.
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Right on, man. The world, let's start first with just the world that, with this whole quarantine thing, man, that, um, us coaches in particular have had to adapt to this way of life right now and this new norm. Um, I want to know, what have you been up to in this time, and what does a tennis coach do when there's no lessons to be taught or kids to feed balls to?
It's been rough. It's really hard to coach with out a tennis court and without students. So that's been a real change. I have actually done a little bit of coaching during the quarantine time. I've been doing it remotely using videos. So having students send in video submissions and I would analyze it from there. So it's really kind of opened up a different way of coaching. I think for me, I've never really done that much remote work without actually seeing them play live. So it's been a good experience. I think that there's going to be a lot of positives to take away from this that I'll be able to use once we're back on the court.
Awesome. Yeah, I know. We've been putting our heads together for the last several weeks, and but yeah, Kyle, I agree that this has been a very interesting time. That it forces us coaches to think on our feet and think of new ways to engage our community. So now, Kyle, I'd like to get everybody to kind of know about you a little bit more. As a player and as a coach. I know a lot of people have known you for several years, and like myself, I've known you since our very first tennis lessons, really, in juniors in Kaneohe. And but tell us a little bit about your background and how you really got started with tennis, and how you ended up to where you are today.
All right. Well, I started when I was 8 years old. I started at Kaneohe District Park playing for Bob's Mob for both our coach, Bob Kanui. And it was a rough experience in the start. I actually told my mom I do not want to play tennis, and she said, "Too bad, you're playing this for at least a month." After the month was up, I kind of fell in love with the game, and I was like, I want to keep doing this, and so I've been playing for 20 years since then, and really, really glad that my parents told me you have to do this. Um, from there, I played junior team tennis most of my junior career. Couple tournaments towards the end. Um, High school tennis, yeah, JV and varsity. Um, yeah,
Right on. I understand, man. It's the humble beginnings that make you, I guess, into the person you are in the sport. And we all have our origin roots, right? Um,
hmm yeah,
and I want to hear in particular though about your junior years, just because a lot of coaches, I think one benefit we have with our kids, and even we're responsible, I think, for is just if we have a background in tennis to begin with, when we share with these kids, especially who are brand new to the game, what stories can we share with them to inspire them to pick up their racket and try hard just like we did if we were there. So tell us a little bit about who exactly you played for in juniors, and what you played. Like, did you play tournaments? We played high school. What high school did you play at?
yeah. So in the very beginning, I think maybe till I was about 10. So for about 2 years, I played Coach Bob's rally ball, which was really nice because it gave us a little bit of a smaller court to play in and just focused on having fun and the scoring system was really cool because you could really rack up points. So you could get like 100 points in a game, which was really awesome as a little kid. When you have that much points, it's just like, what do you do with them all? Um, and then from there, I progressed to the junior team tennis or JTT, playing for the USTA. I think I played JTT for maybe 6 years. I played from about 10 to 16, um, all different levels. I started, I think where a lot of us start, from like the 2-5-12s. Slowly kind of made my way up, and I think about the time I was 15, I was playing in the 4018s Open, which they just released the 4018s Open, so it was cool to kind of be one of the first to kind of play in that division. I played for Bob's Mob all of my seasons, I think, except for one. My last seasons, I played. My last season, I played for Midpack's team or Coach Channon's team, and that was the Prowlin' Owls. So that was a lot of fun. Um, you know, it was a great way to kind of make friends. Like you, I have a lot of friends that I still stay in contact with through tennis. So it was just a great experience. It's a lifelong sport, so you create lifelong friends with it. And yeah, so that was a good experience. After that, I was playing high school tennis. My first 3 years, I was fortunate to play with Marino. I went to Lutheran High School, so we didn't have a tennis team. Actually, I think the first 2 years I was the only player at my school. So we were with Marino, and then after that, my senior year, we transferred over to Pac-5, um, and it was a good experience. Coach Ty at Pac-5 was great. I learned a lot from him, and we had a strong team. Um, so it was a lot of fun to actually be able to win some matches and not just get crushed by the bigger schools. Um, And then as far as tournaments, I only played a handful of tournaments, and actually, it only happened during my senior year. Um, so if you're a junior and you're watching this and you do not play tournaments, my suggestion is you go play them because you gain a lot of experience. That was one thing that I look back on that I wish I had done more of. But yeah, so I played a few tournaments. I think I got up to about number 13 in the state, which is okay. But I think I should have been higher if I had trained smarter. So now that I'm older, I can reflect on that and how immature I probably was at the time.
That's interesting how you touched up on tournament play because, I guess for the people who don't know me either, I coached a little while Castle High School, which was my alma mater. And I was fortunate enough to coach the varsity girls and boys for at least 4 or 5 years. And, that was one thing I had to even understand as a junior, which I didn't understand as a junior, which was the emphasis on going to play tournaments, particularly USTA tournaments that are in the state. And they would give you a chance. They give players a chance, a good to be able to expose themselves to the competitive scene, which then benefits their high school careers. Although a lot of the players, as we know in this state, they'll join tennis in high school, and this will be sometimes their first time ever experiencing the sport. Um, so tell us a little bit, Kyle, about your particular tournament experience and how that might have helped you. Um, did it help you, first of all, transfer your skills into the high school scene a lot better? And what would you suggest in terms of a young kid who's about to go into high school, but is either not playing tournaments or is playing tournaments?
Um, so my tournament experience, I think, is definitely unusual. I didn't start playing tournaments until I think it was the summer before my senior year in high school.
Hmm.
So at that time, I must have been 17, and it was right after I had gotten injured. So I hurt my shoulder, and then I decided to play tournaments, which was not the smartest thing to do, but I think tournaments really gave me a good insight to where I was compared to other players in the state. Um, the first couple tournaments I played, I think were both at Pearl Harbor, um, and I think they're labeled as L6s. But back then, it was just you kind of had like the smaller tournaments, and then you had the DTs. And so I played a couple of those. I think my first two, I actually was really lucky, just with the draws I had and everything. My first Pearl Harbor, I think I won. And then my second one, I got second. So that's where a lot of my points came from my state ranking. And it just gave me a lot of good insight to being able to push myself because I really didn't want to lose. In the first tournament that I played, and I won actually. When I was playing in the finals, I actually had major cramps in the second set. I had won the first set, and we were in a tiebreaker. It was 6-all, and then I had match points. I think it was like 6-4 in the tiebreaker, and my hand was cramping, and I couldn't let go of my racket, so it was really tense. And I kind of showed myself that I could really push through that, and focus on playing smart, and really kind of using that motivation to push myself to a level that I didn't really know was there before. I think that also showed me that I did need to work on my fitness because that was only a 2-set match, so I shouldn't have burnt out that quick. but I think there's so much that you can learn, and I think if you're a younger player, and especially if you're not even in high school, if you start playing those tournaments, you'll learn those things a lot earlier, and that's something that you really need down the road. If you want to be a top state player or even a collegiate or professional player down the road. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, high school tennis is it's a very important part, and I think it gets overlooked a lot with junior tennis in general. Just because high school tennis is your chance as well for colleges to even look at you. And actually, that's a good segue into the next part I wanted to ask you about with your junior tennis career and your career as a young adult, graduating high school. So I'm not too familiar with if you did play college tennis. Did you play? And if you didn't, what did you do with your tennis during that stage of your playing career?
So because of my injury in my senior year, I actually was I lost a little bit of the fire for tennis for a little while. My game was heavily built around a big serve, and I tore my bicep and my shoulder. So that really took away my serve almost completely, which basically deteriorated my whole game. So actually, after high school, I actually stopped playing tennis for about a year or two. I didn't pick up a racket at all. I did get surgery on my arm to fix my shoulder, but I just didn't have that same spark for tennis. And it was actually about a year after that my coach, my high school coach, Ty, he actually pulled me back into tennis because he asked me if I could come down and kind of help him out with the team. So that kind of re-sparked the fire and love for the game. And so that's really brought me back into tennis. As far as college, I didn't play any college. I went to KCC for a couple years, and then after that, I went to West Oahu. Unfortunately, neither of the schools really have athletics, so I didn't play any official matches or anything for college. But I am good friends with a lot of the players and the coach down at BYU Hawaii. So I used to go crash their practices, and that was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Yeah, I am very familiar with the BYU program that we used to have, and it's unfortunate they don't have tennis anymore. But that program, I remember back in its day, was one of the best programs in the state as well as even in the nation. They were playing, I believe, in Division II, if I'm correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I understand that is where you began your journey in terms of coaching and just helping, because I heard that you were involved with Dave Porter, and if for you guys who don't know out there, Dave Porter is one of the most well-known tennis coaches in the United States and even in the world. He is a high-level elite USPTA professional coach, and he was the coach for BYU for many, many years in Hawaii. And he's got multiple national championships in his division. So tell us, Kyle, about that experience. And working under Dave Porter for a little while, and what did you learn from him and take away from him that really kind of, I guess, got your coaching career started?
Well, I'd actually say my coaching career more started when coaching high school. I did coach for Pac-5 for 2 or 3 years as assistant coach, and eventually became the head coach after Coach Tayaki moved to Chaminade. Um, I think, but then after that, once I started helping out with BYU, I'd help out with their practices a little bit, and then ended up attending a couple of summer camps in New Hampshire with Coach Porter. And I think working with a coach of his caliber um, that closely for that long of a period of time, I think really showed me how much I don't know, which was a real eye opener. But it was a great experience because just learning from a USPTA master professional and somebody with his that much experience um, and accomplishments, it was just a real eye opener. You know, learning not just like stroke mechanics and the technical side of the game, but learning the strategy and the tactics. You know, how to properly condition, how movement should be done, how to just make everything more efficient, and also tailor each player's game to their strengths and not just put everybody in a cookie cutter mold. You know, that's a lot. You know what I learned from him. A lot of the coaches that I've been fortunate enough to talk to and learn from, all of them have the same thing in common. I'd say, Coach Ty, Coach Porter, my coach when I was a junior, Channon, is that they're all very accepting of new ideas and new concepts. When just because they know a lot and are very proficient in what they do, doesn't mean that if somebody comes to them with something new that's not of the norm, that they're just going to brush it off. They always take a look at it and see, well, is this the way that things are going? Because I think if you look at professional tennis over the past even just 10 years, the game has really changed the way that people play, the way that people eat, the way that people train. So, yeah, just working with him has been a real blessing. And I hope to do it again sometime soon.
Yeah, that must have been some experience working with a coach like that. And he's probably dumped many nuggets of wisdom upon you and his fellow players you were probably working with at the time. What do you think was the most like novel thing that maybe he taught you or you learned from him and picked up during his practices?
I think the biggest thing would just be that every player is different, and that the way that you approach each player when you're coaching them needs to be different. Everybody has different personalities, everybody has different physical attributes. And so just being a little bit more flexible and maybe showing somebody like, maybe this might be a better way to do it, but there's a lot of people that are very good at what they do that may not be technically proficient. I think if you look at a lot of the top pros like Jack Sock and Nick Kyrgios, I like to point them out a lot because I think their forehands technically don't look the best. When you look at Federer's forehand, it's really beautiful, it's elegant, it's clean. But when you look at Sock and Kyrgios, it looks almost like it's a creation of their own, but they make it work and they do such a good job at it. And I think they have some of the best forehands in the world. So yeah, I think that's one thing I've picked up from him is just that you got to approach every player differently, and that you got to be an open book and willing to accept change.
Awesome. Yeah, that's every player is unique, right? And we're all not the same. We're created differently, and that really blossoms your gifts in terms of, I guess, being on the court. And it's pretty awesome that you have a coach who can point that out to you, which I think is even where I learned that from.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see the different coaching perspectives out there. And for us as young coaches in particular, and even personalities in the game, we're always willing to learn something new, and we've got it shows we got a lot to learn still, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So and to give a little more background about you and that how you got hooked up with me at Team Kailua before you went up actually with Dave Porter to and Wei Su, which is another tennis player, multi-time tournament winner down here on Oahu. You worked in an academy out in Florida for a little bit, and tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, so I went and worked at Brandywine Tennis Club up in Florida. It's in Deland, so it's a small little area near Daytona, and pretty close to Orlando. That was a nice experience. It was really cool to be able to work up there, because I'd never really pursued coaching as a full-time job before. So going up there and working with somebody like that, it just taught me a lot more. It gave me a little bit more insight into training high school kids for college, or even a little bit before that. But training young players for college. A lot of them, would come up. They're trying to either break into the U.S. to go play for a school, try to get that full ride to D1 college. And so learning kind of how that process takes place was really interesting. I also got the chance to work with or talk to a few of the Division I coaches that would come by, because we were really close to this university called Stetson. And just getting to talk to those players and a lot of the coaches that would come down for matches and things like that, getting insight of what they look for in players, and how they built their team. I think at that level they had players that were as high as, I think, a little over 13 and a half UTR, which is pretty good. And a lot of times those coaches, they're not necessarily looking for a player that's really strong. They're looking for somebody that's coachable. They know that if you're 12 and a half UTR, they can bring you to that next level. And they're also looking for team chemistry, because, when you have 6 to 8 players on a team and you're having to play doubles and having to support each other, you got to get along in practices. So it's not always just can they play at that level, but are they going to fit in my team? Are they going to, help the chemistry, or are they going to break it down? And that was really interesting, to learn about, because, I think a lot of people, you look at it and you say, well, this is a good player. Why didn't you pick them up? But if they're not the right fit for you, in your school and your team, it's not going to work out, and you may end up losing them or some of the other players on your team.
That's cool. Not many people, especially our age, get an experience like that, where we get to travel to another state, away from home, and learn this kind of stuff, at least these days, from what I've seen, and especially in Hawaii. Incredible opportunity, and I'm glad you took it. And it sounds like you've learned a lot up there with those guys, and in that environment, which is very different from here in its own regard. And then eventually, the opportunity, I guess, came that you came back to Hawaii, and here you are now, and you're coaching with me now at Team Kailua, which is our community junior program out in the Kailua area on the island of Oahu. And just kind of give us a little brief summary on like how that's been going. And you've officially been down here with us for almost a year now, being back on the island. Have you been able to adjust really to the island and to the tennis at all, or was it a pretty smooth coming back?
I think it was a pretty smooth transition. Thanks again to you for giving me the opportunity to come and work with Team Kailua. It's really nice to be able to be back in the community where I kind of grew up and learned to play. And the kids are great. I think we have a great coaching staff, and it's just really nice to see the younger kids kind of coming up and having that same passion that we had when we were younger. Just never wanting to leave their court, when their parents are calling them, let's go, and it's just one more, and then one more turns into 30 minutes later, and they're like, we really got to go. You have homework, we got to eat dinner, Yes. Yeah, so it's a really nice transition. I think it's nice to be able to take the knowledge that I learned from the mainland and from other coaches and kind of bring it back into the community, and really kind of help spark the joy in the game that we both love.
That's so good, Kyle. It's we are, I think, very blessed to have you on the coaching staff in particular, and for me to work with you after all your experiences you've had in such a short time as a young coach and player has even helped me elevate my game in terms of coaching and even as a player. But it's we're really blessed to have the kids and the families we have as well. And just bringing the legacy that we had from our former coaches and mentors in life. And we're bringing it to these kids now. And, actually, just kind of talking about this leads right into the next segment, which I wanted to ask you about. is your thoughts on junior tennis in general, and because that's a big topic that not only is popular here in Hawaii but nationwide. But just talking about juniors, especially since you just came back from Florida not long ago, do you notice any significant differences between the juniors in Florida and here? And if so, what are they, and what do you think maybe would help our juniors, aspire to that?
I think that the biggest thing between juniors in Florida and the juniors here um, is just the amount of time that's invested on the court and off the court. A lot of the juniors, the higher level juniors that I've seen here, they do hit a lot, but that off court part is missing. Um, they don't seem to do as much off court, I think, as the kids in Florida and some of the kids. We did have international kids as well. Um, they didn't seem to do quite as much of the off court training, like running and things like that. It's a lot of fun to just be on the court and play. And I think that if you look at a lot of the pros, that they probably spend more time off the court training and, being in the gym than they actually are hitting. Um, we have a lot of great, I think, technical players here in Hawaii, have real nice, clean ground strokes. They play a pretty solid game, but they have a hard time when we go up to zonals. And, just the different climates and things like that is also different. When you're in somewhere like Florida or California or New York, you can just jump in a car and you can drive to another state, playing a whole different scenery, different courts, different players that you've never seen before, different altitudes. That was a huge thing. And I think in Hawaii, we're fortunate that we can play year round, but we're also unfortunate that if we drive in a car, we're just gonna go in a circle. and
Sounds like
and
Hawaii.
yeah, yeah. So, but I like a lot of the things that I see the junior players here doing, and I hope that one day we have a pro that really breaks out from Hawaii. I mean, that would be amazing. I think we're really fortunate to have people like Dennis La Hoya, who did kind of go on the circuit for a little while and show that you can play at that level, um, be a top collegiate player and be somebody that can be a touring pro. But hopefully we'll see somebody in the top 100 soon.
That's awesome, Kyle. That's words of encouragement right there for sure. He's referring to Dennis Laholo, which was a junior player back in his day in Hawaii that played for UH and or University of Hawaii at Manoa for 4 years, and he was one of the best players that ever came out of that program. So Dennis, if you're watching, what's up? And we've had other players as well, like Ikaika Job and Thomas Schubert. And I'm just curious, Kyle, from your perspective, if you were working with a young kid, let's say about like 9 or 10, or dare I say even younger, and the parent or the kid in particular have aspirations to want to do something like this, what would you instruct them at that young age to get started? Like, where would be their point in particular that they should kind of focus on at the very beginning of their journey? And if you were coaching them throughout their journey to get to high school tennis and eventually older, give us a little idea of the path that they would be taking, you think?
All right. So let's say I started with somebody that's around 8 years old. So I think a lot of people might find this a little interesting, but I would actually push them to play different sports. I would say, yeah, let's have some fun. Let's play tennis once a week, twice a week. But I want you to go play soccer when it's soccer season, and I want you to go try to play some basketball. Maybe go play a little bit of volleyball and things, and just I want you to become more well-rounded, and really just kind of help them fall in love with the game when they're younger. You really got to spark that interest in tennis, and allow them to go try other sports and try other things. And really that'll help them develop their footwork, different kind of movement, different kind of hand-eye coordinations, things like that. And really don't start specializing until you're maybe like 11, 12, 13 years old. Once you get to that age where you're kind of like a preteen, that's a time where you kind of start to settle down and be like, okay, what's the sport that I'm going to try to really make mine? And if tennis, I think, happens to be that sport, I think that's great. And that's the time where you can really start to train, and then maybe start playing some tournaments. Start picking up the racket, 3, 4, 5 times a week. playing after school, doing a little bit of off court training, doing some like running, jump rope, footwork drills, things like that. Maybe don't go too heavy on the weights, because we don't want injuries when they're younger. Don't want to stunt their growth or anything like that. As they transition into high school, I would say definitely go play some high school tennis. It's just a good way to get out there, play different people. Um, you know, it's a free way to get matches. You don't have to pay any tournament fees or anything like that. So, and you get to play the other best people in the state. So that's definitely a plus. And by the time you're in high school, you're probably just raring to go on the courts. So I wouldn't be surprised to see somebody out there 5, 6, maybe even sometimes 7 times a week. Um, so definitely getting out there, hitting for a couple hours a day, and doing maybe somewhere between 3 to 5 days of off-court training, maybe about an hour session each. Interesting enough, I actually recently talked to a junior girl who is currently a sophomore and playing in, I think, California. She's a top 150 in the nation for her age group, and I think on like tennis recruiting, she's top 100. But yeah, it was really interesting. I asked her, just curious, what's your training regimen like right now? And she plays about five times a week, about 2 hours a day, and does about 1 hour off the court 3 times a week. And I think that's pretty reasonable. You want to give your body some time to recoup, rest up. I wouldn't recommend actually doing things 7 days a week. I think that's a little bit much, especially if you're doing the off-court training,
Sure.
because really it's about getting better and improving your game, but also about injury prevention. You don't have a lot of time in that high school time. 4 years might seem like a lot when you're 14, but when you get to 17 and you're like, oh no, I only have 1 year left. If that year you're spent injured, it's really tough for colleges to really take a look at you and want to recruit you. They're also looking at players' longevity and seeing, can I get 4 years out of this player, and are they going to be injury free? Are they going to be sitting on my bench, using up my scholarship money? So I think that's something that's really important that you also want to look at. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a big goal that I think I particularly think that kids juniors should be striving for is to play college tennis if they get that opportunity to do it. Not everybody will get that opportunity, to be realistic, but if you put in the right regimen, like you were saying and mentioning that you can at least give yourself a good shot at making that. And for those juniors out there that don't particularly know too much about college tennis and what it can provide, if you could share a little bit about that with us, Kyle, just because you sat along with Dave Porter at the BYU matches in particular when they were doing their college seasons in your time there.
Mhm.
Can you share with us a little bit about college tennis and what a kid we need to do to get there, and then what are the benefits they're going to really be receiving through that?
Mhm.
Besides even a free education.
Yeah, so it is a little bit different for men and women due to Title IX. So let's start, I think, maybe with the men. Men, I think it is a little bit tougher because a lot of schools do have football teams, which does eat into scholarships. So usually, if you're talking about Division 1, you're probably looking at about 4 full scholarships that the coach can give out. And so if you have that ability to play Division 1, and you can be that number 1 or number 2 player that's really going to deliver those wins every time consistently for your coach, you might be able to get a full ride. But I think more realistically for most players, you're probably looking at trying to get something between a 50 to 75% scholarship to a lot of D1 schools, if you choose to take that route. Um, and it's a really good way to kind of help your parents out, because our parents are really the ones that invest in us and invest in our games. And so I think shooting for something like that is something that you can kind of help give back to them. A lot of parents I know do help out their kids with college, and even if you can get, like, say you could get 20% of a scholarship, that's 20% less that your parents have to pay, or you have to pay later on, um, from student loans or anything like that. So I think it's a good way to kind of meet some friends that that you can really trust and depend on. A lot of college friends are people that you can really kind of call up, and even if you haven't talked to them in a year, you can just pick up the phone and be like, hey, I need this, and they'll be like, yeah, I got you. Um, so Division One, definitely a place you can do that. D2 and D3 are a little bit different. Division Two, you have usually a little bit less money, but there's still a lot of opportunities there, especially if you're the kind of player who wants to play tennis, but maybe you're not quite at that Division One caliber. There's still a lot of great players in Division Two. Um, you know, uh, as we mentioned, Wei Yu, he was my boss up at Brandywine. He played for BYUH. They're Division Two, and he was number 1 in his country when he played. So I think he played number 2 for BYU. So it shows how strong D1 or D2 schools can be. And Division Three, you don't have athletic scholarships, but a lot of Division 3 schools are really good academically, and you do get the same opportunities to go and travel and play schools all around the nation. So Division 3 is just unfortunate that you can't get a sports scholarship, but if you're really academic, that might be a good route to go to keep yourself playing tennis. And then on the women's side, I think they're really blessed with the opportunity of a lot more scholarship money. A lot of the Division 1 schools have about 7 full rides for the women, and that's a full ride including things like housing and books and food. So it's not just the tuition. And so if you're a Division 1 player, I think that's a really good way to kind of help get your education paid for. Not all people that are going the D1 route are looking to become a professional. So going and playing for a D1 school allows you to kind of keep your passion, build those lifelong relationships, keep playing tennis, and a free education. I mean, how can you beat that? D2, same as the men's. Little bit less scholarship money there usually, but Division 2 schools are still really strong. As we mentioned before, BYUH. Some of my good friends that played during the last year that they had athletics were both former WTA ranked players, and they were both top. I think they ended up both top 5 in the nation. Dallas actually never dropped a match. Never dropped an official match while playing for BYUH. I think she ended up probably triple-digit wins. I think she had over 100 wins and no losses. So there's definitely a lot of girls in D2 that can really put up a fight. And then Division 3, very similar to the men, where they don't have they don't have athletic scholarships, but they definitely have academic scholarships. And if you're looking to just keep playing the game that you love and want to get a good education, that's a great route to go.
That's awesome. That's I'm hoping exactly what these juniors out there are looking for to hear. Just because these guys, college tennis is not really that big of a deal in Hawaii, believe it or not. And I highly recommend, if you're a junior out there and you're living in this state, if you have a college nearby that plays college tennis, regardless of division, whatever they have or whoever who's playing, go and watch their matches. The University of Hawaii at Manoa and the HBU, Hawaii Pacific University, Hilo. If you look up their websites online, when we get all this going again, they usually post their match schedules for the entire season, basically, online. And you can go ahead and log on to their athletics department websites and check out the schedules and who they're going to play and when. It's a great opportunity to go watch high-level tennis right in your own backyard, and it's pretty much always for free. They either play at the school that they're at, or they go to other locations like Ala Moana, Central Oahu Regional Park, even the Kailua Racket Club, some of the local places, at least on Oahu as far as I know of. I haven't seen college tennis yet on the other islands, which I eventually will. But yes, I definitely recommend you go watch a match or two, because next to pro tennis, it is the closest thing you can get live to watching that kind of stuff in person. And it'll give you a good idea in terms of where you can be in terms of the game if you really push hard and you love this sport enough. And that actually leads me, Kyle, to a subject I really wanted to talk to you about, just because I guess us two, we're part of the pioneer genre of this, and that is UTR, Universal Tennis Rating. And it's a new ranking system that's been around for a couple years, but it's really now becoming established nationwide and around the world. And pros even currently who are playing are getting involved with UTR. But Kyle, you have a lot of experience with it, as well as running tournaments on the mainland and helping me down here run them. Explain to us a little bit about UTR and why a junior down here in particular, or even your adult player, would want to get involved with a UTR tournament or just play.
Mm. Yeah, I really love the UTR system. When I first heard about it and I was looking at it, it really is inviting and it makes you want to play the tournaments because everything is level based play. It's a little bit different than the USTA's NTRP system where everything's broken up by half point steps. This is a scale from 1 to 16 with 2 decimal places, and it really helps allow you to really kind of zone in on what your level is and allow you to be matched up with people that are similar level, so you end up with a really good high quality match that's going to push you. It's not very much fun when you play a tournament and you enter and you play the first seed and you just get smoked. It's never fun to be on and off the court in like 45 minutes. You want to have that grindy match where you're pushing each other and you're finding those new heights. You don't want to just be watching the balls go by as you get aced. So UTR is great for that. It's also great for junior players that are looking to play college because a lot of coaches are looking at your UTR nowadays. If you're a boy tennis player, you probably want to try to get your UTR, I think, at least up to like a 10.5 or 11. Because it really kind of shows your consistency. Your UTR is based on your previous matches, and even if you lose, your UTR can go up. Let's say you're a UTR and you're 8, and you're playing against somebody that's a 12, and you end up splitting sets with them. Your UTR is definitely going to be going up. So it takes a lot of different factors into account and really helps provide you with an accurate display of what your level is. I think a lot of the ITA tournaments that they play on the mainland, they are running through UTR nowadays. So it's just really nice because Hawaii is one of those places where I think a lot of coaches don't see it as a very strong tennis state. And so if you can show them that you come from Hawaii, but you still have a high UTR because you've gone out and you played some of those national tournaments, or maybe you've beaten some of the local college players here, that can help really kind of, but it'll help show the coaches that you are a solid player, and even coming from maybe a state that's not known for tennis as much, that you can really produce the results that they're looking for. Yeah.
What would a junior player down here need to do to get involved with UTR or find a UTR tournament around here?
So if you go to, I think, myutr.com, you can search tournaments in your area. Coach Shane and Tennis Ninja are actually the only people in the state of Hawaii right now that are running these UTR tournaments, and it's really great. Hopefully we can get that started up once this all blows over. But we're looking, I think, to do one maybe every other month, maybe over the summer, maybe even every month. But yeah, it's a great opportunity to get out there, play some good matches, and start developing that UTR rating. So I think hopefully, what is it? It's April. Hopefully, maybe in June, maybe we'll get one going.
Yeah, if this all blows over in time, then definitely. Just UTR, I agree, it's possibly the way of the future in terms of ratings for juniors and really for pros and anywhere else. And actually, yeah, he was referring to a tournament that we ran together out at Kailua District Park back in February this year, and it was called the Valentine's Open. And it was the original UTR tournament that we decided to run, and it was a chance for us to learn about this. And it's such a fun format to do. And all the players, I remember, they had a great time, and they were looking forward to the next one. And we were going to run one, which should have happened about a week and a half ago, but we'll definitely look forward to whenever, God willing, this all clears up, and then we'll be back on the court again doing this soon. but yeah, this brings us actually to the Q&A section of this interview. And in future interviews, guys, we will be actually asking you to help us be engaged. And we want to hear from you guys, questions you have for these guests, which I will let you know about in the future. And we want you to ask the questions. But for today, I will be asking the questions. And there's a couple that, Kyle, I've actually had in mind in particular for you. And the first one has been about this whole quarantine thing with tennis. What do you think is going to come out of this in terms of being a coach during this quarantine time, and how can you still reach your students?
Um, I think that it's going to be kind of good in a way. I think a lot of kids are going to be really eager to hit the courts, and they're going to really take their time on the courts a lot less for granted. I think a lot of people, including myself, we're just so used to just walking to the courts every day, playing a little bit. And now that that's taken away, we really get to see how much, how valuable it really is. I think we'll appreciate our time on the court a lot more. And, it'll drive us to maybe make our time on the court a little bit more efficient too, so that we can get as much as we can in. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to getting back on the courts. But it's also nice to be able to kind of open up and figure out different ways to do things from home. Whether it just be, giving your kids small tasks to do at home, such as like bounce ups, things like that, or little competitions. I don't know if you've seen, but Federer has his volley challenge going on. So that's been really cool. Seeing people get really creative with that. Not everybody even had a tennis ball. I think I saw somebody doing it with a roll of toilet paper. Yeah, so one of the UH players on the men's team, Lulu, he was doing it with a cooking board and a tennis ball, so cutting board. So it's really great to see people get really creative with different ways to keep their training up and keep themselves entertained during these times. And I hope that really sparks the interest for everybody when we can go back out to the courts.
Right on. Kyle's referring to that TP challenge you've seen either on social media. I don't think it might have made the news maybe here and there, but it's cool where you can take a tennis racket, and the whole deal on social media is you bounce that toilet paper roll on your tennis racket or whatever you got, and just be cool with it. Just have some fun, and then challenge a friend to do it next. So I haven't gotten challenged yet, guys, so I'm waiting for my invite. And I think Kyle's waiting too, so just FYI. But anyway, so our next question was about your junior tennis career. And what, Kyle, do you remember most about your junior tennis career? What was your most memorable moment as a young player?
My most memorable moment?
I seem to have stumped you there. That's a tough question, huh?
That's a tough one. Yeah, I think there's a lot of pretty memorable moments, so it is a little bit difficult to choose just one. I would say actually one of the most memorable moments might have been maybe my senior year. I was very fortunate to play with this other boy named Anthony Pang, and we were a pretty good doubles team. And we went out and we played against Travis Yoshimoto and Paul Okuda, and we were playing first doubles against them during the regular season. And it was a close match. We didn't end up losing. I think it was 4-3, so one break each set. But I think it really showed that our doubles was at that caliber that we could compete with the top teams. It was nice to see that. And then Travis and Paul, congratulations to them. They actually went on and won the ILH postseason. So they were the top team in the ILH. And so being able to play so closely with them, I think is one of the most, exciting matches that I had during high school.
That's awesome. High school tennis, I definitely remember those days as well. That was it's a special thing that you always take with you with your team, or even just playing for your school, which I think is it's a huge honor, regardless, I think, of what school you play for. You're representing that logo you wear, or that school mascot you got and everybody who makes up that school. That
Yeah.
includes the teachers, the staff, the groundskeepers, the coaches, and your friends who are your schoolmates. And it's a big deal. So it's a cool experience that if you are a tennis player, you got to try at least once.
Yeah.
And that actually brings me to my last question for you, Kyle. And this is a
Mhm.
question I'll probably always be asking other players who've been involved with tennis is if you had to give one piece of advice to an upcoming junior in terms of tennis-wise, where do they want to go with the game? What would you tell
Hmm. Um, just make sure that tennis is still fun and something that you enjoy doing. If you get to that point where you're just going out to the court because somebody else told you to, I think you should take a step back and try to find that passion that really ignited the joy. You want to be able to like be dying to go to the tennis court. You want to be that person that's the first one there and the last one off because you just don't want to leave. When the lights turn off, you're still like, okay, we're still going to play one more, that we got the moon out.
them?
um, yeah, so just make sure that you're still enjoying the game, because I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, definitely. Passion for the game, man. It's the reason you and I are still doing what we do, man. And these kids, it's a special thing when you get to coach a kid, I'm sure. And you
Yeah.
see that they are the ones who don't want to leave the court, and we're telling them go home, cook rice. We like eat dinner already, and they still want to
Yeah.
play balls. So it's a very special thing. But
Yeah.
anyway, Kyle, that's all I had for you today, man. Thank you for joining us with the Tennis Ninja interview today. And do you have any closing thoughts or anything you'd like to say to the Hawaii tennis community out there?
I guess maybe just a quick, shout out to all the coaches that have kind of really kind of helped me develop into the player I am. Coach Bob Kianui, my JTT coach, Coach Mike, um, Coach Tayaki, Channon Alcon, David Porter for helping me in my coaching career. Wei Yusu, thank you for taking the time and really mentoring me and teaching me a lot of the things that I use to this day when I'm coaching other students. And yeah, shout out to Team Kailua. I hope all our players are still getting out on the court, somehow, holding a racket, bouncing some balls, maybe doing some footwork drills. I hope you're all getting through this okay, and I hope to see you soon.
All right. And I gotta say thank you, Kyle, for joining our staff. And just us, we get to unite again, man. We're on the court for these kids, and we're doing it together, which is an awesome thing. So thank you, Kyle, for being my right hand guy and a partner in crime in this coaching endeavor, which is it's been so fun. I look forward to the time we get back to the court too. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, and thank you guys for joining us today for Tennis Ninja TV. And, we'll have many more interviews with other personalities and coaches around the island pretty soon. And we hope you guys have been enjoying the video highlights that we've been putting together. There'll be definitely more of that to come. And, just we're hoping to put a smile on your guys' faces in this time that, we may be off the court physically, but we'll still be out there in spirit and keeping busy at home. So until then, guys, aloha. Thank you again. And we will see you on the next episode and next interview of Tennis Ninja TV. Thank you very much, guys. Aloha.